Imagine this. Joshua wakes up, goes to work, puts in the effort, deals with stress, comes home exhausted, and repeats that cycle again the next day. His paycheck arrives, but before he can even enjoy it, a large portion of it disappears into bills, payments, and interest. By the end of the month, Joshua is left wondering where his money went. He didn't overspend wildly, he didn't make reckless decisions, yet he still feels stuck. That's what debt does. It doesn't just take Joshua's money, it slowly takes his time, his energy, and his sense of control. Here's where most advice goes wrong. Joshua has probably heard that he should pay off the highest interest debt first. It sounds logical and efficient, and mathematically it makes perfect sense. But the truth is that this approach fails most people like Joshua, not because the math is wrong, but because real people don't behave like spreadsheets. When Joshua focuses on his biggest and most intimidating debt first, he often spends months paying it down without seeing meaningful progress. The number barely changes, and it starts to feel like all his effort is going nowhere. At the beginning, Joshua feels motivated and determined, but after a few months, that motivation fades. Life gets in the way, unexpected expenses come up, and slowly he loses momentum. This doesn't happen because Joshua isn't disciplined, it happens because he's human. That's why the real solution isn't about choosing the most mathematically perfect strategy. It's about choosing the one Joshua can actually stick with. Getting out of debt is less about numbers and more about behavior. This is where the debt snowball method comes in. Instead of focusing on interest rates, Joshua focuses on building momentum. He lists all his debts from the smallest balance to the largest. Then he makes minimum payments on everything except the smallest one. Every extra dollar Joshua can find goes toward eliminating that smallest debt as quickly as possible. When it's gone, he takes the money he was paying on it and rolls it into the next debt. With each step, his progress speeds up. The power of this method comes from the small wins it creates. When Joshua pays off his first debt, even if it's small, it gives him proof that he can actually do this. That feeling of progress builds his confidence and keeps him going. Then he attacks the next debt with more energy and a larger payment. Over time, what started as a small effort turns into strong momentum, and that momentum carries Joshua through even the biggest debts. Research and real-world experience both support this approach. People who focus on paying off smaller debts first are more likely to stay consistent and eventually become completely debt-free. The reason is simple. Progress creates motivation, and motivation creates consistency. A strategy only works if Joshua can follow it long enough to finish. Some people argue that this method costs more in interest, and in some cases that's true. But the difference is usually small compared to the risk of losing motivation and giving up entirely. A slightly less efficient plan that Joshua actually completes is far more effective than a perfect plan that he abandons halfway. Before Joshua even begins aggressively paying off his debt, there's one important step he shouldn't skip. He needs a small emergency buffer. Life is unpredictable, and unexpected expenses will happen. Without any savings, those expenses will push Joshua back into more debt. Having even a small cushion protects his progress and keeps him moving forward. Next, Joshua needs to clearly understand his situation. Many people avoid looking at their full debt because it feels overwhelming. But avoiding it doesn't change anything. It only keeps Joshua stuck. He writes down every debt he has, along with the balance and minimum payment. Seeing the full picture might feel uncomfortable at first, but it gives Joshua the clarity he needs to take control. After that, Joshua focuses on finding extra money to put toward his debt. This doesn't mean extreme sacrifice or giving up everything he enjoys. It means paying attention to where his money actually goes. When Joshua tracks his spending, he notices small expenses that don't really add value to his life. Cutting those doesn't feel like a loss, it feels like regaining control. If Joshua wants to speed up the process, increasing his income can make a big difference. Even a small amount of extra income each month can significantly reduce the time it takes for Joshua to pay off his debt. Every extra dollar he puts toward his balance doesn't just reduce what he owes, it also shortens his journey. Throughout this process, there will be moments when it feels slow and frustrating for Joshua. There will be times when his motivation drops and he questions whether it's worth it. That's completely normal. Progress isn't always exciting, and it doesn't always feel rewarding in the moment. But it's still progress, and it adds up over time. The key is for Joshua to stay consistent, even when it feels difficult. He tracks his progress, celebrates small wins, and reminds himself why he started. This journey isn't just about paying off numbers on a screen. It's about changing how Joshua's life feels on a daily basis. Imagine Joshua checking his bank account without feeling stressed. Imagine him receiving his income and knowing it belongs to him. Imagine Joshua not worrying about unexpected expenses or juggling multiple payments. That's what he's working toward. When Joshua finally becomes debt-free, everything changes. The money that once went toward payments becomes an opportunity for him to build his future. He can save, invest, and create financial stability instead of just maintaining his current situation. The habits Joshua builds along the way don't disappear, they become the foundation for a better life. In the end, the difference between Joshua staying stuck and becoming free isn't about luck or perfect timing. It comes down to one decision. Whether Joshua chooses to start or stay where he is. Because time will pass either way. The only question is whether Joshua will use it to move forward or remain in the same place.